Effective local marketing starts with. Hold on a second. Can you go shut that door out there?
Yes, I'll do
And
it.
Peter Krakowski, could you tell him to keep it down to like 4 or 5, not 7 or 8 out there? Oh, how's this going so far?
It's going good. It's a good thing I have my meeting at 9:30. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. We're doing this a little early because Hanson's like, "Hey, I'm a meeting. I'm a really important guy on the campus. I got stuff to do." Oh, all right. Then let's wait till she gets back in her seat. How'd you like to be 21, interviewing the congressman with a bunch of kind of angry callers at times that are like angry about the shutdown. They're angry about all sorts of stuff. And then she has to moderate that.
Well, you had me at how'd you like to be 21? So
All right, here we go. Effective local marketing starts with understanding your customers, and that means mastering the art of listening. In this episode of Mastering Local Marketing, we explore why the best sales and marketing conversations happen when you talk the least and listen the most. Discover how using silence strategically can close more deals and why asking insightful questions builds trust better than any sales pitch. If you want to enhance your local marketing efforts and genuinely connect with your audience, this episode offers practical insights to help you unlock the true power of listening in growing your small business. This is a hard one
yeah,
for everyone who loves their product,
yeah. Everybody loves to talk.
especially for small and medium-sized businesses. By the way, I heard the Indiana leader of entrepreneurialism, a new guy, Brian Shutt, speak yesterday here, and he talked, and he said there were 600,000, he used our term, small and medium-sized businesses in Indiana.
Yep.
I thought that was way more than I thought. I had it pegged
Really?
at about 200,000, but no, it's 600,000, he said. And the thing that impressed me about what he was talking about is that everybody is proud of their business. And so here I am, you're coming in and we're doing this one now. Everybody who's proud of their business wants to talk about their business.
Yeah.
This kind of translates into an anti-productive stance in a sales meeting.
Yes. So again, this stems from, I talk a lot about consumer behavior and understanding how we interact with our customers and all those types of things. And I've read a few books, I've listened to a few podcasts, and I've done some experiments over the last couple of years where I've strategically, where I'm having conversations with companies and different business discussions that I'm having, on purpose have not tried to discuss what I do and just ask relevant questions to the conversation that's going on. So the idea has been, let me listen to the person that I'm talking to. Let me ask questions. Let me get to know them, and and I hate to say it, let me stroke their ego a little bit to let them share their story, right? Because everybody loves to talk about something that they know. So if you do that, it's really kind of interesting to see what happens because, again, we're talking about kind of stopping, listening, asking questions. But how many people do you know that they just talk and talk and talk, and they're waiting for their opportunity to talk in the discussion? And, whether it's a family member, a friend, a business colleague, whatever it may be. But if you become knowledgeable enough to understand that this is happening, you can actually start to change the narrative and the discussion. And that's what I want to talk about today. So this all stemmed from, my wife and I were shopping for some furniture a couple weeks ago. And we went to a couple different stores, and some of the people were just like, standoffish, let you do your shopping and all of those types of things. But we then had this other one that just had some really great furniture that we were looking at, but it was this constant discussion and let me do this and let me do this and let me do this. And they weren't reading the room. right? They weren't understanding that we're going to ask some questions, but first we need to kind of assess the situation. Whereas the other salespeople that we were talking to kind of just gave us our space, let us know if you have any questions. Occasionally they came back and, asked us, do you have any questions? But it started getting me thinking, like, what's the worst sales experience that you've ever had? And it feels like the worst sales experiences that we have are the ones that are people pushing their product down your throat and not letting you really talk about what your real needs are, right? So we're looking at this furniture, and we have our own needs, right? We have a smaller area in our kitchen that we were trying to put this new table in, and everything that we were looking at was too big. And this salesperson just kept giving us pricing. And it wasn't about pricing at that point. It was literally, you're not listening. We have this. We want to go with this. We're looking for this style of table. And here are the measurements that we have. Let's get it down to the 2 or 3 tables that will work with that. And then we'll have a discussion on price or whatever it is, right? And, we started talking about materials, which made more sense to me because you've got softwoods and you have hardwoods and all this other stuff. And when we looked at it, this guy was pushing price on us mostly. And price was probably the 3rd or 4th variable, right? Like we went everything from a $500 table to my wife looked at this one table that was $8,000. And I'm going, I don't know where you're going. I don't know where we're going to end up on this, but let's find what you want first. Listen to us and the questions that we have, and then we'll get to the pricing of, once we narrow it down. So we didn't go back. We didn't make a phone call. We didn't buy from this person. We've ended up purchasing a table somewhere else, but it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right fit.
One of the things that impresses me on that, of course, this is the Mastering Local Marketing Podcast, episode 87, Stop Talking, the Art of Listening. A lot of it just kind of sticks with me now as I ask you, like, we did a recent podcast about Matt's coming here and he's helping us consult on some things. And the more that you talk and you analyze our business and other people's businesses, I get the feeling that it's all a process and a system. Mm-hmm. And you talked about, like, you're basically applying a system to everything that you put out there. But you also mentioned about, like, all right, I go to a movie and I know, and they write up and they set up the first half, and I can almost write the second half because I followed the system and the process of all the past movies. And I got to tell you this. I went to a movie with my wife. Julia Roberts plays a professor at Yale. And one guy was in the beginning of the movie, and then it started getting slow about 2/3 into it. And I go, that other dude, Andrew, has to come back, and he has to create some ruckus here. And she says, why do you got to do that? and like if it's a baseball or a basketball game, and, I've announced 1,000 games, and I've played in 10,000 and watched 50,000. Yeah. All these numbers. And you get a rhythm. I go, these guys are going to lose. They should have scored there. Instead of getting 7, they got 3 twice, like the Bears on Sunday.
Yeah.
I go, this game's over. I'm not even going to watch the second half. What do you mean they're within 1 point? No, they tried to score twice. They got to the 8-yard line, but 2 times and they didn't score. I go, this game's over. Oh, why do you got to do that? You think you know the ending all the time. You are applying system to everything. You're even now applying a system to listening.
Yeah.
And there are a few pointers to this. I know you asked me a question, but I know we got to get to these. But my worst sales experience, I had one time I wanted to buy life insurance.
Oh, yep. Go ahead.
And I had a guy that I knew, or my wife knew, both of us actually. And the guy came over, and all he had to do was say, hey, here's what they are, and blah, 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 and we'll buy it. But he came in just so hot on how great the product is and never listened to what we were saying. I literally had to wake up in the morning, and I'm like, whatever. I know what I want to spend a month. I want to spend about $2,500 a year. It's all I want. Oh, no, what about this? What about this annuity? Oh, and this, and we're the greatest company, and we just got this award, and we just got that award. And finally, I'm like, hey, dude, let us think about it. And I never talked to him again about it because it was so surprisingly aggressive.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot when you go in. Like, who wants to go buy a washer and dryer? I finally found a guy, and he was just like, well, what do you need? Well, it needs to fit here, and it needs to load this way, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, well, what else? What color? This and that, and listened, and then I'm just like, he goes, well, we could do this, this, and this, or whatever. Those are our options. Didn't say any crazy things. And I'm like, you're in. Just write it up, whatever she wants. Yeah. Because I could see right now that you understand what I want. The pricing is the pricing, and let's call it a day. So there's two different things. But you asked about that worst sales experience. That was in my late 20s when I bought my first life insurance policy. And I'm like, man, I never want to have to do that again.
Yeah.
And so what about yours?
I think the life insurance policy was probably my worst as well. We had this one guy that we bought from back when we first had kids, and he basically came in, asked a bunch of questions, built something. We were fully on board. The last time, somebody, they started pushing certain products to us, and I kept asking questions. I'm like, can you explain this? Well, I literally had to go online to understand what I was being sold. And then I said, okay, well, this piece here I'll never see. This piece here I can probably do that over here by myself and all this other stuff, right? And it was, they weren't, nice person, just wasn't listening, right? And I'm sitting there going, okay, well, this is the need that we have. I can, in theory, do it myself. I'm pretty well versed in investments and things like that I can do it myself if I really wanted to. So why would I go with you versus doing it myself? And it was just like, oh, no, you need this product. And there wasn't a lot of explanation, right? So it was a lot of talking. And I hear this so often that people will say, oh, I'm a great salesperson. I can talk to anyone. And I say, that's not a great salesperson.
That is number one. That is the myth of the great talker.
Yeah.
We're going to go through a few of these. I'll just tell you. It's a myth of the great talker. Listen versus waiting to talk. We'll do those two first. The great talker.
These are the people that come out, and I hear this a lot with young salespeople. They're like, oh, I could talk to anyone. I can sell anything. I can sell, tell me how to sell this pen kind of thing. And what I laugh about is they're not listening. They're not even listening to how they're coming across by saying that, right? It's that cockiness that nobody wants to be sold by somebody that's pushy. What we want to understand is you got to ask a million questions because, and let me take you back. There was a project that I was working on at the university, and we used to have kind of these three different things that we would sell for a certain price point and all this. And, it was basically, we put them out there, and they'd be like, oh, this is, wonderful things that we're doing and all this, blah, 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 blah. And everyone always just kind of bought the bottom tier because they didn't really see the differences in the three. They were put together and they just bought the bottom one. I came in, I wiped it all out, and I said, all right, we're not even going to have packages. We're going to just have conversations. And, this was years ago. And basically it was, person walks in, what are you looking to do? Well, we'd like to do X, Y, and Z. I said, okay, if I can do X, Y, and Z, and I throw in, A and B as a bonus, can we get you to agree to this? And they're like, absolutely, let's do this. Let's write it up. It took me like 5 minutes to do that, right? Now, that package that we were discussing at that point was 3.5 times the price what we used to do. And it took me 5 minutes. I didn't present anything. I said, what do you want to do? X, Y, Z. And I threw in A and B because it cost us nothing else to do. And I said, it's for this price. And it was 3.5 times the price. And people were like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And it wasn't the fact that people were focused on the price. People were focused on the fact that I listened to what they wanted, built it into a bundle, and gave it to them. And they weren't even looking at the price at that point. There was no comparison. There weren't different, there wasn't a price point of, just using simple math here, $100, $200, $300. They weren't, comparing them. It was literally, you gave us exactly what we were looking for, and we're going to pay that price. So that's what I mean by listening versus just talking and saying, here are our three packages.
Oh, here's the practical consideration for the small to medium-sized business, 600,000 of them in Indiana, and is that you're talking about a lot of people who own their own business or are a marketing person in like a family company. And by the way, he gave a great talk about the silver tsunami coming up of all and whatever.
$75 trillion or something that's going to change hands in the next.
Yes, and I was like, wow, he's almost describing me. It really, everyone kept looking at me, and I'm like, well, what? No, man, I'm a late starter here.
Yeah.
But anyways, you are running your business and you're going at it, and you have a little bit of time for your marketing person, or you're the marketing person. Mm-hmm. Usually there is a marketing person of some sort, and you want it to be like structured so that, all right, well, somebody says, well, send me the pricing, like somebody, all right, send me the pricing. It's a lot more difficult to say, well, we just kind of talk to you and then we decide, what'll fit. And you've come on here, as everybody knows, and one of your things in the beginning is like, Matt, we got to have something to hand people or whatever. And you're like, well, let's just talk to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first I was like, no, man, we just send them a thing and, hey, here's the pricing. And if you have any questions, call me. All right. And it's horrible marketing, but it has worked just enough to get our startup off the ground. And then I went into a meeting one time without anything. And you were right. I went and well, this is what we do. And I had a little bit of non-pricing literature. Mm-hmm. And it was it was easy. We made a big sale on it, and it was just one time. Yeah. Now, I haven't gone into that, but that was don't worry about it. Just go in and talk to them. I'm like, what? I mean, I don't know what to hand them then. You know what I mean? And that's a practical consideration. What do you say to the small and medium-sized business?
I think from your standpoint, right, if you focus strictly on a price or a package or whatever it may be, that's the focus of the entire conversation.
Gosh, you know what? Right there is your gem.
Right? So if you go in, so every single person you talk to has a problem, right? And we've talked about this probably 20 episodes ago, and I was actually in a meeting last night where we were talking about this, where you've got the hero of the story, which we kind of alluded to earlier in movies. You've got the hero, which is the customer, and then they have a sidekick, which should be you, right, that provides a solution to a problem that they are experiencing, right? And that's kind of how movies and stories and all that work. And that's how marketing works, in the fact that your customer, your potential customer, has a problem. It doesn't matter if they're looking for furniture, or they're looking for plumbing services, they're looking for advertising, or they're looking to just generate awareness for their business, right? You walk in there and you say, okay, what are you struggling with? Are you trying to generate awareness? Are you trying to generate new orders? Are you trying to generate more customers? From your perspective in the sports network, right? It's literally, we're trying to get more people to be part of it on the ad space. And when you sit down and you start talking with them about that, it's, okay, well, what are you doing right now? And, we're doing own social and we're posting all this stuff. And okay, that's great. How is that working out? Well, we're not generating as many followers as we would like. Okay. So, if we could put you in front of the local market, here are our download numbers for the games. This is how many thousands and thousands of people are watching on the network every single week. And we could put your commercial in front of them. Would that work? And, well, yeah, but we don't have a commercial. That's fine. We actually build the commercials for you. You do what? And that's where you start to hear, like, you'll build it? Yeah, we'll build it. Given the package that we put together and all that, we can actually build it for you. And you start to listen for the walls that people put up, like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And you start to get to a point where you're just like, and I think Alex Hormozi uses it best. He's like, from a scale from 1 to 10, where are we? Well, we're at a 7. Okay. We're at a 7. What's it going to take to get us to a 10? What is the one thing that's holding us up? And people start to think, they may have something, they may not. Well, it's the fact that I don't have any ads. Okay, well, we've got people that can help you with that. If we can help you put together an ad, would that take us to a 10? Well, I need to talk. What is it that this other person needs to hear from us that we can get you to help them be comfortable with what we're doing here, right? You see, I'm not saying you need to do this right now, like this opportunity is going to go away. I'm asking you, what is it going to take for you to be comfortable with this? It's fine if you never want to advertise with us. That's fine. I get that. But we're presenting an opportunity here that most people don't take advantage of. We're taking out all of the barriers that most people put up. And so I'm listening, I'm having a conversation, and I have not talked about price. I have not talked about packaging. I am talking about opportunity to generate awareness, to get you in front of the market, the local market that you're looking at. Most people that say they're great salespeople are the talkers. They're the ones that are like, I'm going to sell you on this. Boom, 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 boom. And they just start throwing stuff at you. And they don't realize that they're actually turning people away.
Life insurance, Bob.
Yeah. Well, I forget the rep we had. But, I would have purchased, if you could have shown me that I'm better off purchasing that versus doing it on my own, and I understood the product that I was getting.
So you really already kind of covered some of these other points about listening to wait to talk versus waiting to talk. It's a similar dynamic here in that we have a ton of people that are filling in for me in the morning and do other shows throughout the day. There's probably 50 hosts over a period of a month, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I got to work with them, right? And then I hired a consultant. The consultant came in and he's like, man, you and all your people let the callers go and the guests go on too long. And I'm like, well, they got something to say. I bring them in. That's their job to, and I teach the young people that are doing this, listen, let them do it, but always have a follow-up question. Adriana and the producer and I went and talked to a class, and what's her name from Munster that does the entrepreneur classes? LaFletch.
Yep.
And she's like, these guys just don't know how to talk to people on camera. And I'm like, well, all you got to do is ask a question, and as they're talking, write down a keyword, let them finish, and then ask a question about that keyword. And you can go on as long as you want with that. There's something out of what they said interested you, but you have to let them talk. And she's like, that's the one thing they can't do. They don't let the other person talk. They're always butt-in-skiing on them. And, how do you – here's the dilemma for the small to medium-sized business. You do love your product. You almost want to get back to it right away because, you're in a sales meeting or whatever. Even if you're a marketing person, everybody's is always loaded up. How do you balance that love for your product to kind of try to jam it into somebody's head and the needs that they have?
So again, it's asking questions and listening. I want everyone to try something.
Okay, here we go. So, I knew we were going to get to a concrete tip.
So take a rubber band and put it around your wrist. And I want you to go through the next week, and I want you to start having conversations just with people. And as somebody is talking to you and they're telling you a story about something, when they stop talking and you literally go to say, I had a similar experience, and then you start to say that, snap that wristband. Why? Here's what you're doing. You are literally shifting the focus to you versus them by doing that. Right? So you're saying, oh, I've listened to your story. Oh, by the way, I've got a similar story, and I'm going to tell you about it now. So you've completely shifted the focus back to you. It's a selfish way of doing it. Instead, as you sit there and you're going to jump in and do that, you have to go, all right, I need to ask them a question about that story instead. And it's funny because you can actually do this little experiment with yourself and do it over a week, and you will be amazed at the amount of things that you learn and the opportunities that pop up. I did this for about 2 weeks, just having conversations with different people, and the amount of people that were asking me to do consulting and all this other stuff, like literally people were jumping at me saying, I'm learning so much, like you're asking all the right questions. I never thought of that. I would love to work with you in some capacity. all I was doing was asking questions instead of going, I had a similar client that used to do that, right? And let me tell you about them. That would have gotten me absolutely nowhere. But it's such a fun experiment. And I know a lot of people are out there sitting there like, this is a little crazy, but try it. It is amazing at what will happen, and your conversations will completely change.
So trust, obviously, is where you're going, and the listening builds that. So ultimately, you talked a couple of times about just a silence.
Yeah.
Being quiet while they're talking, that's one. But when they're done talking, and then you do a silence pause sometimes they continue. I mean, what's the thinking behind that?
So human beings are very uncomfortable with silence. So what we do is we try to fill the void. And a salesperson that is out there trying to sell something will throw out a price or the offer or whatever it may be. And if the customer doesn't respond right away, they fill the void with more talking. Throw it out there. I mean, obviously you have to ask all these questions and all of this. You solidify everything that they're looking for, but then you throw the offer out there and just, as I would say, shut up and just look at them and smile. And even if it takes you 5 seconds, let them come back to you because they're going to feel the need to talk. So you're going to get one of two things. You're either going to get a yes or you're going to get one more objection coming back, and you'll go, okay, let's work on that. How can I solve that, right? So what is the thing holding you up? They explain it to you, you fix it, and you go, okay, let's go back to the package. Let's get you signed up right now. And you shut up again. And it's funny because you will close more customers that way by just closing your mouth versus these salespeople that say, I can talk to anyone. They will talk and talk and talk and talk, and they will never close because they're not listening. Listening is the number one key to selling. And you ask the questions, you get all of the different, things that they're looking for, you solve all of those things, and there's nowhere to say no to, right? I can't afford it right now. Okay. What is the issue with affording? Is it the fact that it's a lot of money up front? We have some payment plans. We can adjust some things. We can take a small payment up front just to lock you in, and then we can bill you later. What are some of the other ways that you would feel comfortable with paying for this? Right? Like there's all these different ways to do it. So what I'm saying is just listen. Silence is great, and ask for the sale and just sit there and just, if it takes 5 seconds, 5 seconds is a long time in a human's brain, right? So you sit there and just complete silence for 5 seconds. It'll feel like 30 seconds, but just do it. Just mentally set yourself to do it.
You feel sometimes like you're getting manipulated by the Matt Hansen insightful systems. You're not too far off, but hey, this is for you, the small and medium-sized business. I would like to say congratulations to one of our very loyal listeners who has turned on many other small and medium-sized business to our podcast. If you could do the same, that would be great. But Gloria Go Morris works for Google in the AI, and she's kind of different in that field in that she has amazing communication skills. She was inducted into the Society of Innovators yesterday and got an award and for all of her work. So Gloria, I know you're listening. Thank you for all you've done around here, especially for nonprofits. And finally, I think somebody around here noticed, and you were well deserving. Final thoughts?
Just ask questions and honestly just have some fun with this. Use what we've talked about today and just go out there and start having some conversations, ask questions, listen, and you'll be amazed at how it changes your business as well as your daily life.
Get us wherever you get your podcasts. The Mastering Local Marketing Podcast. Until next time, see you later.